We're going to be working on this very old faucet in this very old bathroom. The whole bathroom needs to be renovated, but we want to temporarily fix this since it's such an easy process to fix so it doesn't leak around each of the handles. As you can tell, it has been leaking for a long time because the finish on this faucet, well, it's pretty much deteriorated. This is actually clean. I went and cleaned this with a toothbrush to show you that it has deteriorated from the water draining down it for so long, it just looks horrible. So to keep this from happening to your bathroom, let me show you how easy it is to fix that. Now the first thing we need to do is get under here and turn off the water. Now you remember you turn off the hot and the cold. And remember the phrase righty tighty, lefty loosey? We're trying to make these tight to block the water, so in most cases you should turn it to the right or clockwise. Then of course don't forget to close your drains and nothing falls down in there. Now to fix this sink, I purchased a simple repair kit with springs, seals, and O-rings in it for less than $4 at the local hardware store. And also I'm going to be using some silicone grease to make sure everything moves real easily. Now the two common types of sinks will either have this knob you turn from the top or one that has a little handle sticking out. The ones from the top actually have a little tab that removes right here in the center so you can get in and remove it. The ones that stick out to the side usually have a little Allen screw down low you have to remove the handle. Now to get into this tab, I'm just going to use a knife and very carefully pry up on this, and if you can get it just right, it should pop up pretty easily. And might be able to see the screw down in there. Alright, we're now going to hold on to this handle as we try and get that screw out. Handle's just popping off loose. Sometimes you'll have to get the screw out first. Sometimes the handle will just pop right off like that. Now that we have the cap off, let's make sure we take a look exactly the way it is currently in here before we go any further. You can even take a picture of this with your phone so you don't forget. Once you get to that point, now we need a crescent wrench because we need to remove this nut that's right here. Alright. Remember righty tighty, lefty loosey, so we're going to go to the left here. And that is coming off now. There's the nut. Probably get a set of pliers. You want to carefully rock this back and forth until that comes right on out. Now unfortunately with this faucet here, the valves down below are not fully sealing. So in some cases, especially on old sinks like this, there's a chance you may have to work around the water seeping out like it is now. So in that case, we're just going to do our best. There's a seal down bottom. We have a little challenge to get to sometimes, so we might use a screwdriver to see if we can get it out. Alright, there is this, one of the seals down there, and then there should be a spring. Some cases you may use a toothpick to get these out a little bit easier than a large screwdriver. And there is the spring. So we want to replace this seal here and this spring with the new kit. Alright, there is the new seal and the new spring. We want to make sure those look very similar to the originals because sometimes the designs are a little bit different. Now we're going to take a little bit of that silicone grease and we're going to put on these to make sure everything on the top primarily here so it makes and moves real easily while it's being used. Now as we're putting this back together here, we want to make sure the big part of the spring will be going downward. In other words, it'll fit in like this and then down into the slot that is in there. You should be able to see the slot. It's a little hard for me to show it with the camera at the moment, but you can feel it around in there with your finger and you can feel where the bottom of the spring should go. I'm going to use a toothpick to help align everything and we'll get it down in there the best we can. Now we also want to replace the O-ring here that's around the mechanism so water does not seep past it. So we're just going to take a knife and very carefully, without hurting ourselves or the piece, we're going to get that old O-ring off of there. If by chance it breaks in the process, it's not a big deal. And now before you put the new one back, we're just going to clean that out with either some paper towels or toilet paper. And before we slide the new O-ring on, I'm just going to add some more of the grease on it so everything will again slide real smoothly. And then slide it back over, making sure that we do not break it. You can always put a little extra grease around here, some silicone, to make sure it is fully sealed. Now it's time to reinsert the mechanism back in here. I'm going to try and get some of this water out real quick, making sure not to mess up the seal we put in there earlier. Then taking note which way we pulled this out and the 2 notches that are on either side here to hold these tabs. We want to reinsert that, making sure it is back in a proper location. Now once you have it back in place, get the nut. We want to screw it back on and take your crescent wrench and we want to snug it up. Again, we're not making this super tight. We just want to make this snug so that it doesn't leak. Then dry everything up and it's time to put your cap or your knob back on. Then of course, just repeat the process on the opposite side. All right, for the moment of truth. Nice and dry on that side. Nice and dry. Oh, no, we have a little leak. Now let's see exactly where this is leaking. We've taken the knob back off. We're going to turn this very carefully. Yep. Now just as I expected, it's actually leaking through the mechanism. It's not leaking over here where the seal is. That new seal is perfectly dry, but it is leaking through the top here. In that case, you'll just have to replace this mechanism. Or in some cases, there's an internal O-ring. Some of these will come apart and some of these won't. So let's take this back out and see if it'll actually come apart. All right, see this is coming apart here. You slide it off. There's one more O-ring up in there. Now in the repair kit I showed you earlier, you can see there's those smaller O-rings and one of those should fit inside. And if you look real closely here, you'll see there is one more seal that can be replaced to help prevent that leakage as well. Now if by chance you don't feel confident in replacing all the O-rings on the mechanisms, you can actually buy a 2-pack real easily on Amazon, and it actually comes with the springs and the seals and the mechanism already pre-assembled. Let's do one final test. And there we go, perfectly dry.